Good evening, everyone. I'm Shalini Ami, Chair of the Bachelor of Design in TA program from the School of Environmental Design and Architecture. On behalf of Navrachana University, it's my honor to welcome you all to our 15th Foundation Day celebration. 15 years of academic excellence. What a remarkable journey we've had. From our inception to where we stand today, each year has been a testament to our collective commitment to excellence. Looking around this room, I see the faces of those who have shaped our university's success story. Our visionary leadership, dedicated faculty, division staff, and of course our very bright students. It's my pleasure to welcome our esteemed chairperson. Unfortunately, David is not here due to a medical emergency. Chairperson of Navrachana Society, Seema Khanwalkar. Her vision and leadership continues to light our path forward. Her unwavering commitment to education has been instrumental in shaping our institution. A very hearty welcome to our host, Professor Navrachana, Registrar Dr. Sankar, and members of the Board Management Committee. Your leadership has been a cornerstone of our growth. To my colleagues and our very bright students, you are the heart and soul of Navrachana University. Thank you for being here. It's your dedication and enthusiasm that make our university the vibrant community that it is today. We are very particularly honored to have with us an exceptional individual as our chief guest, Dr. Seema Khanwalkar. Dr. Khanwalkar is a renowned semiotician. As we gather here this evening to commemorate 15 years of academic excellence and innovation at Navrachana University, I can't help but feel a profound sense of pride in our journey. To truly capture the essence of this milestone, I believe we need to hear from someone who has been very instrumental in shaping our institution's vision and growth. So on behalf of Tejule, may I request our host, Professor Vadodara, to please come forward, take the stage and kindly read her message.
Thank you, Shalini, and a very warm welcome to all of us present here. Very delighted to have Seema, to have agreed to come here and deliver the Foundation Day lecture. And congratulations to everyone present here for our 15th Foundation Day. Unfortunately, Tejul Bain couldn't make it because of medical emergency at home, but she asked me to read the message that she wants all of you to hear. A very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Seema Khanwalkar, members of the board, provost, that's myself, registrar, faculty members, and students. Please accept my best wishes on this important day, the 15th Foundation Day of our university. When we started the university in 2009, we were extremely clear that Navrachana University must strive for becoming a place of excellence, and it should fill a gap in the academics ecosystem by becoming a university that is known for its innovative curriculum, pedagogy, and a creative approach towards teaching, learning, and research. We wanted to truly create a university that resonates the meaning of our very name, Navrachana, meaning a new creation. And in a short period of 15 years, I feel we have come a long way and are committed towards fulfilling our foundational objectives of being a place of innovation and excellence. Over the last 15 years, many people, including university leaderships and school leaderships, have only enriched this university through a variety of approaches, perspectives, and have added to the rich legacy of practices that make us what we all are today. And in the last few years, we have made rapid strides in making sure we have an excellent interdisciplinary framework for our students, a host of electives, minor, choice-based curriculum, and emphasis on studio and workshop pedagogy, and most of you know about that, across the disciplines, apart from focus on research and strong collaboration in industry groups. Moving towards future, we would like to see our university form meaningful partnership, not only within the country, but also outside, across the globe, and we would like to see ourselves as leaders in academics and truly become a center of excellence. Once again, I thank everyone for their dedication over the last years, and congratulations to all of you on the 15th Foundation Day of our university. A round of applause. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful message. I think she really wanted to come here, and I was, in fact, insisting that and maybe we should have another session where Pradeep is there. These were folks who were there 15 years back when they founded the university, and I'm very curious to hear more stories about the foundation, what I like to call as the foundational moments of a university, which all of us should be aware of, and because that's that foundational moment that continues to influence in a direct or indirect fashion a lot of the things that we do. Let me take the proceedings forward, Shalini, and we'll start with why we have gathered here. We have gathered here to listen to, of course, celebrate the Foundation Day, and to do that we have invited Dr. Seema Khanwalkar. I have a personal introduction to Dr. Seema rather, before I give a more formal introduction. In fact, Seema did not send her CV, and our folks here were struggling to piece together a CV. She did not send a photograph, so this photograph was only, I think, a year back, Seema? This was last year? Huh? 10 years back. And so, but Seema is a dear friend, one of my best buddies, as I would say. We have done so many things together. We have taught courses together, we have done workshops together. We, as families, are very close to each other. And I think the most, I remember I came back from Nepal, because I had been in SEP for much before that, and I found a new person at the canteen, and I asked her, who are you, what do you do? So she said, I'm a linguist. And I said, what the hell is linguist doing here? I mean, we are all proud architects, engineers, SEP is a very different community. And it's been what now? In 15 years, and Seema has really become part of us in terms of part of the community of designers and architects, and really contributed a lot to research. And that's very intriguing. So somebody who is a linguist, somebody who understands culture, languages, meanings, symbols, she calls herself a semiotician, how does that person contribute to this whole question of production, creativity, the objects, designs and architecture? And I think that is a very special ability that Seema has. I think more than anything else, I think I find Seema to be such a passionate, such an empathetic teacher. Whoever, and there's some of you here, Karan, Priyanka, who might have attended her courses. I mean, students simply fall in love with Seema. I think that is one characteristic she has, that whichever course you ask Seema to take, the kind of passion and sensitivity she brings to those courses, students remember her for decades to come. And that is why if you were to visit her house in IIM, and she lives in IIM and always lived there, if you go there in the evening, you will always find some students sitting there having dinner. So in the morning with somebody having tea. So that's the kind of community that she has fostered. So really, Seema, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I also wanted to get back at you, since you gave me last time 24 hours to prepare a keynote lecture. I gave you like a week, 10 days, so that's coming closer. It's also payback time as far as I am concerned. But here is a more formal introduction to Seema. So Seema Khanwalkar is a professor at SEP University, is a semiotician working in the areas of culture semiotics. She teaches semiotics, anthropology, semantics, and expands her interest in understanding the impact of digital cultures. She's also a visiting faculty at IIM, where for the past 8 years she has consistently imparted the values of semiotics in understanding brand communication. She also teaches at NIT, apart from her own institutions which is SEPT. Seema also practices as a consultant in brand development and advertising analysis. She has a background in linguistics, as I said, and has been amongst the most prominent voices in the world of semiotics. She has lectured across the world, giving talks in many important forums, and authored a number of publications on her area of research. But her most recent publication, Applied Semiotic Tools for Indian Cultural Context, which has been published by said university press is a remarkable achievement. This book demonstrates the efficacy of semiotics as a theory and method when applied to a wide range of subject matter and establishes its value in the world of academia. This book has 4 parts, 4 chapters. One is performative cultures, notions of space and geography, digital futures and discourses of identity, and modernity and nationalism. So that's the range Seema covers. And in recent times, Seema is amongst the first, is the first Indian to be nominated to the Semiotic Society of America committee. She was recently invited as a plenary speaker at the 47th SSA Annual Conference at San Antonio, where she spoke on the principles of climate and environmental ethics. And we are extremely proud of you, Seema, that you are doing some wonderful work. And I'm really, at a personal level, really excited to listen to you. Over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Shrimati Tejal Menon, Chair of Navrachana University. I'm sorry for her personal medical emergency, but it would have been an honor to meet her. Respected members of the board of Navrachana University, the honorable citizens of Vadodara, who, Mala and Pradeep and Sandhya, and of course the wonderful faculty at Navrachana University, and my dear friend Rakesh Shankar. I almost had an out-of-the-body experience. Rakesh was talking about me. I was looking like, who is this person? But because for me, Rakesh and I go way back as young faculty members. We used to hang out at the Chai Galla most of the time, and all our conversations and our growth as academicians happened there. Now, students do not take this as a norm, okay? But it is a very important part of being a student community where you should spend time discussing outside the classroom. That is what I learned at JNU, 35 years ago, where my learnings were more outside than inside the classroom. And I, of course, had fabulous faculty in those times who were so inspiring, like historians and economists and Professor Krishna Bharadwaj. So I really owe it to all of them, to whatever I am today, and to my application of field. I used to sit in classes like Romila Thapar and Prabhat Patnaik, and just sort of feel the sense of freedom. And I think institutions should allow that, movement between disciplines, and that is where you learn. So today, I thought I would talk about fostering of culture and what are institutions, what is an institution, today is an important day. Congratulations to Navrachana University for having completed 15 years. It feels like a family because I know most of you, Pratyush and Pragya, of course, are family. But a lot of you are, it feels like I'm coming home. So thank you so much for the respect and the warm welcome that you have given me. Today is an important element, chapter that all of you students are going to start. The university is making a promise to you, to themselves and to you as students. It is to foster a culture that will remain with you as an important memory of your experiences. So after today, you'll branch out with your individual pursuit of educational streams and will be preoccupied with specializations that you wish to achieve for yourself. So today I thought, let me take this opportunity to stop for a while and talk about spheres of culture. Because as a student, like I said, though I was in the linguistics department, I was never in my own department. I was always seen in political science, or I was seen in sociology, or I was seen in anthropology. And for 10 years, people would ask me, what did I finally graduate out of? So, that is the kind of, I think, thing that has remained with me. So let's, from a social science perspective, because Pratush gave me this opportunity, and I thought after a long time, I do not want to talk about architecture or design. And that's a freedom that I'm going to exercise today, Pratush, because I take back all my sociological learnings, and also the concern that sociology as a theoretical discipline has really not produced adequate conceptualization for a long time. The last Indian sociologist who worked on anything conceptually great was Sanskritization and Westernization. And I think the country desperately needs us to stop for a while and think what is going on. Because you have great sociologists who moved to the US and have contributed to universities and have worked on Indian culture, but today what we call is a globalization process. So spheres of culture manifest themselves institutionally at different times in our lives. Some we are aware of, sometimes we let it go by without giving it a thought. But they are there nevertheless. And it is important to be aware of them playing a role in our lives every day, particularly in the context of a polarized society that we are becoming more and more. I think today is, these are times that we need to have subjects like sociology, and since Navrachana has a liberal arts school, and I'm sure the faculty here is also working on issues of this kind. But they are nevertheless there, and it is important to be aware of them playing a role in our lives. Culture is something that we humans have learned to cultivate over a long time. Unlike our ancestors who lived in tribes and learned to survive it. It is thanks to them, however, that we have come this far and built institutions of culture that we so proudly call the modern world. Anthropologists have divided the world, the main cultural spheres, into primarily kinship and religion, and secondly, political, legal, economic, and education. Primary spheres are characterized by face-to-face modes of communication and interaction, and today in the social media, by a feeling of solidarity. The secondary spheres, on the other hand, are based on conventionalized and impersonal focus of interaction, like the legal sphere, the economic sphere, the political sphere, and the educational sphere. So the worry is that we tend to look at institutions from, a lot of these institutions which have a direct bearing on us in the everyday sense, in an objective way, as being out there. The 21st century, we live in the secondary sphere more than ever, as consensual patterns of interaction would have been impossible on the basis of primary spheres alone. And here is the irony. We live in the spheres of the political, legal, economic, and education, and yet, and they have a direct impact on us, and yet we feel they are away from us, because institutions have become, like nucleus in their own world. The word consensual takes a very important meaning here. It literally means sense-making together. In a collectivity of any kind, consensus implies adherence to systems of behavior, allegiance to the norms of behavior, and communication that are deemed appropriate by the collectivity as a whole. In an institution, it is the leading administration that decides it. In a religion, it is the leader and the religious text that decides it. And in a political sphere, or a corporate sphere, there are systems that decide appropriateness of what it means to belong to that sphere. So what we are essentially saying here is that belonging to any sphere of any of these cultures requires us to decode and understand what it means for us to belong to it and not to belong to it. So, you really have to learn the ways of belonging to a global world. Now, whether you're traveling through airports, you have to learn the codes. If you don't learn the codes, you're not part of the system, right? So decoding has become the way of life, and we are constantly decoding, but we are not spending time in thinking about what it is doing to us as a human race. So we are so caught up. It's like sociologist Mark Oge, who talks, he's an Australian sociologist, who talks about how we are constantly living in a world of transit. If a city does not have flyovers, it is not a city. We comment on cities. You go to the first time and you ask a question. The city does not have flyovers. We live at airports much more than we live in our apartments. And the idea of mobility has become almost a central part of our life. And that is the sociological aspect that we need to stop and think, not just decode. In the primary sphere, like that of kinship, which has been considered as par excellence, the functional meaning to give stability and perpetuity through activities. Membership in a kinship unit provides every human being with a primary identity and a vital sense of belonging. Which is why people tend to feel a kinship bond when they meet a stranger of the same lineal descent. I'm sure as students, all of you, recognize one another from the same state or from the same language, or from some village or some town, and that is where the cultural belonging. So studies of societies by anthropologists like Malinowski have shown that most people cognitively distinguish between their underlying value systems, which is in their kinship bonds, orientation and norms from macro spheres of reality. Now, what are macro spheres of reality? So there is one side of it which is the kinship bonds, and we are very comfortable and happy in them. So you have all these ads like Airtel and social media, which makes us, very, very happy. So everybody wants to sell a happy picture, which is what kinship anthropologically is all about. But we do not have any sort of relationship with spheres of reality like law, religion. It is also true that when it comes to macro level institutional and cultural spheres like law, religion, or ecology for that matter, people routinely talk about them as things that are acted upon them. So we say that climate change is acted upon us, law is thrust upon us, religion is given to us, right? So the language that is used is almost like it is acted upon us, or which others, especially the elites, can act on to their benefit. So it is two sides of the story, but there is never an agentive purpose to address religion, law, or ecology, and that is where the sociological crisis lies, because we no longer want to stop and think as to how close it is to our beings, our own lives itself. It is imperative on the social sciences to bring a change in the sociological perspective and hence value of the word spheres. There is a growing sociological call that emphasizes that these macro-level institutional spheres do not act in the sociologist Talbot Parsons' structural functionalism for I'm sure the faculty here would relate to that. Sense of systems, needing things and doing things. They are real constructs and have real consequences. Most importantly, spheres are not static. So the importance of looking at these cultures as spheres is that they are processual and they are continuous. They keep changing, they act upon us, we act on them, and they vary in terms of their influence across time and space. They have their own ecological dynamics associated with their level of autonomy and degree to which we find ourselves close to the institutional core, and we do not find ourselves close to any of these institutional cores. But in the final analysis, they shape the everyday reality of large parts of the population cognitively, situationally, and ritualistically. Cognitively, as we develop identities embedded within relationships, within encounters, within corporate units that present us with macro level elements. So when you join a corporate organization, like I said, you are supposed to decode the behavioral aspects of the corporate life. So it has a direct impact on us as human beings. Situationally, when a person enters a courtroom for the first time, think about it. I mean, how many times have you imagined with fear that if you are caught in a court case and you enter a courtroom and you are confronted with a lawyer and fighting, you see this in films, but it is so real, right? We do not want to be in that situation, and it is that distance that I am talking about. Or when one goes to a mall on a Black Friday and ritualistic, when people participate and in frequent religious services on a regular basis, or when you students take your final exams every year at the same time. So there are certain rituals that we participate in at a regular intervals in a cyclic manner, and which is why we talk of culture as spheres and in a continuous cycle. This is the 15th cycle that Navrachana is going through, and it is going to go through several changes as institutionally, administratively, and legally as it goes forward. Critics have often pointed out that the word institution is one of the most vaguely defined concepts in sociology. In colloquial terms, institution refers to an enduring organization or association, or a formal position, or an enduring custom such as a presidential handshake, or law. Every social scientist refer to enduring patterns like marriage or legal relations as institutions. So marriage is an institution that we perform on a ritualistic basis. More recently, a new way of thinking, such as the John Myers School in the United States, that talks of rationality as the master process. That is the danger, where and all organizations in the world, regardless of inequalities in the world, easily conform to this basic pattern of conformity, of conditioning, of belonging, and across the world, we have the same records, we have the same designs, we have the same, ISO sort of topic, flyovers, you have the same kind of buildings, skyscrapers that underpin cultural myths and patterns, and hence this promotes similarities rather than differences. And that is where urban life has come to. And urban planning is somewhere responsible. So it ignores variation in state or capitalism. And which is why we have a polity which looks at universalism, which looks at sort of putting everybody on the same stage. The question that begs here is, if everything from an handshake or to sexism to Harvard as an institution, then what is not an institution? And when we consider everything as an institution, from marriage to Biden's handshake, and even to Biden's gaffes that he makes, as a president, because that is again an institutional mechanism where the president speaks. What is not an institution? John Mayer, the American sociologist, is best known for the development of the neo-institutional perspective on globalization for a world society. Of course, we all know that globalization as a process has overtaken our industrial capital and, of course, post-capitalism. Through a series of empirical studies, Mayer and others observed that new states organize themselves in a significantly similar manner, despite their differing need and background to give strength to their explanation that there is a set of norm of forming a new state under the bigger umbrella of world polity. Now, this is what I mean when I say that we are chasing similarities rather than looking for differences amongst, and we don't celebrate differences anymore. We celebrate similarities, we celebrate isotopic thoughts that we connect around the world. So neo-institutionalism is an analytical framework for interpreting global relations, structures, and practices. The theory views the world system as a social system with a cultural framework called world polity, which encompasses and influences the actors under it, and we all are part of it. Critics point to the fact that world polity theory assumes a rather flawless and smooth transfer of norms of world polity to the global actors, which might not always be plausible. Also, its tendency to focus on homogenizing effect has brought a lot of criticism. So we are facing a tremendous homogeneity across the world because that is what corporates want, that is what financial institutions want, and that is where sociology has lacked in the last 25, 30 years to conceptually present to us as to what it means to be different. Everybody is talking about what it means to be similar. What then can we do to offer a robust cultural theory that can balance structural balance of institutions? Invoking and referring to some recent work on macro-sociology by sociologists such as Seth Abutin from Memphis, it might be a good start to avoid the noun form of the word institution and also its verb form, institutionalization, and work just with institutional sphere, which is a more manageable and more, something that you can handle. This helps us avoid a universal system, language, and talk about networks, which, Pratyush's work on cities, where he talks of networks and small networks that connect all of us together. And meaningful differences. That's the most important thing. What are the meaningful differences between us? Nobody wants to talk about meaningful differences anymore. And once again, look at Max Weber's 1946 work on his social psychological work on worldviews, ideas, and interests surrounding social orders. Institutional sphere also can embed the notion of history and evolution and find points of historical specificity that lend discrete texture to time and place. Now, what we are missing is this discrete texture, and I was telling, when I see Mala's textiles, for instance, I find an amazing texture that relates to a certain sense of space, a certain sense of time, and that is what makes her work so, sensually alive, texturally alive. Evolutionary thought and or concepts have been staple in sociology since Marx, Spencer, and Durkheim, as well as many other now forgotten sociologists. Much of this thinking occurred before the modern synthesis of Darwinian natural selection and Mendelian genetics, and before the types of empirical data necessary to draw good inferences and were readily available. For many early sociologists, evolution implicitly or explicitly meant progressive gradual change that unfolded primarily at the macro level in terms of spikes, time and space. It both fit the crude efforts of societal classification, examples savages, barbarians, civilized societies. For those of you who are going into anthropology and sociology in your literal studies, you will come across the way in which human races were classified from savages to barbarians to civilized in a very Eurocentric perspective, and what were the, how societies were judged by the Western world, and the growing social scientific efforts to understand colonized people. Hence, many of the criticism of Eurocentrism were at least partially valid. In the 1960s, evolutionism returned in the form of stage models that sought to learn from the past. These two failed to use evolutionary principles and were more about discerning developmental stages and less about theorizing about socio-cultural evolution. So the bias towards development, the bias towards, so what we see in the first world development unfortunately came back in the 1960s. In the last 25 years, neo-evolutionary theories have grown exponentially because they are macro and collective and highly complex in their substance. Institutions do not evolve based on the Darwinian principle. They do not grow, like in the last 15 years from stage 0 to stage N or stage Y. Though, like all things attached in the biotic world, institutions can be wiped out along with the society in the face of massive environmental change. To draw them from Turner, institutional spheres reflect two theorist models of evolution, Spencerian and from Durkheim. The gist of Spencer's model challenges pure Darwinist thinking because it not only relies on competition between species or traits or whatever is an element of selection. Instead, he posited between species or traits at risk of collapse or conquest because environmental exigencies were not so much a constant but an inherent risk of population growth and density. Under normal conditions, existing structural and I would argue cultural solutions would be mobilized to resolve the exigencies, but oftentimes these were not sufficient and the society faced a choice. Either create new structural and or cultural spheres. Evolutionary processes are real in sociology, though our focus is on how and why institutions evolve. There are plenty of other levels of evolution under which other principles apply. By moving towards Spencerian and Durkheim's processes, however, we gain several advantages to strict Darwinian accounts. First, we are freed from using biological concepts such as metaphors for socio-cultural evolution, and when they are not really one-to-one fit. Second, they open the doors to thinking about who. That is what actual persons are affecting evolution, as well as when, why, and how. And again, here is the principle of differences. So, who is affecting evolution, why are they affecting evolution, and how are they affecting evolution? Thirdly, we can very unidirectional and unilinear stage models like Darwin for good, acknowledging that evolution is not necessarily progressive in terms of growing complexity or differentiation, but in fact, evolution may mean different things for different people and in different cases. And that is where institutions have to take into account the fact that it is not about unilinearity. So how can we propose linkages between micro and macro in the ecology? And I quote, we begin with a simple proposition. The greater is the degree to which an institution is autonomous. So autonomy is very important for an institution. The greater is the degree to which one or more discrete institutional cores form, the more controlled they are in a larger sphere of the global polity, the more we lose autonomy. On the one hand, the greater autonomy comes the increasing likelihood that physical space, including buildings, pathways, and even people lodged temporarily or full-time in these spaces, will become distinguishable from other types of physical space. At first, physical space becomes differentiated temporarily, such as the public square of a chieftain serving as a daily meeting ground. Eventually, however, residential zones become bounded vis-a-vis political legal zones. So essentially what is being said here is that no institutional space, no matter how autonomous, is an island unto itself. And the more we recognize it, that there are networks and there are possibilities of connections, the more we become closer to other spheres of culture, which includes the legal, the economic, and the ecological, and apart from many others. Yet, like culture, it is the hardest concept to nail down because it is used in so many different ways. Institutional analysis, as Weber recognized under a different terminology, also offers so much for historical comparative sociology, as we can examine the synchronic or diachronic variations of a sphere or set of spheres. Either way, taking institutional spheres seriously in a sociological theory research is important. It's very important if we are to create a more robust and comprehensive conceptualization of the social world possible. Thank you.
For this truly amazing. I think what I really appreciate, you really sticking your neck out to attempt a theorization or a speculative theorization from a sociological perspective of what should be an institute. And I guess especially what struck to me is how what you're saying allows us to look at, or rather from conceptual frameworks to look at the questions of ecology. You mentioned three: the legal, the economic, and the ecological spheres, which are really affecting us, but in the way we imagine institutions or ourselves are really far removed from our daily realities. And I think it's very rare to come across scholars that can look at the problem of a domain of society from such a conceptual and theoretical perspective. And I really thank you for doing that. So maybe a big round of applause.
I wish I would have the scholars, but I just spoke today with a view to provoke. I just hope that one of the scholars in the audience will take this forward, and sociology and particularly sociological theory is completely missing in this.
But I think the fact that we are still taking baby steps in establishing the humanities domain, and we are very serious about establishing the humanities domain, but also a lot of what we have said, many of us will take some time to absorb and think what really hit us. And perhaps usually we won't have too many questions in the foundation day, but if there is a pressing question regarding sociology or institution, we'd be very glad to take those, if any. Yes, Darshan.
Can you just provide me? I wanted to know from Indian context, there is this thing about one nation, one exam, one nation, one text. Okay, one nation, one election. So how do you look at
this question?
I think my talk is self-explanatory in that sense. I think I don't want to step on political controversies here, but I think that is something that we will ignore. State level issues if we go for one nation, one election, or one nation. I mean, we have caste politics everywhere, right? Bihar is so different from UP. be so different from the South. And voting happens so much on the basis of, who you belong, where you belong. And I think it's going to be a very difficult battle to take, and especially one nation, one exam. Again, from the South, the students are very different. So I think these are just political rhetorics, but to implement them on the ground is also, I think, a means of, sort of just putting a net over everything and just, shutting down the businesses is what I feel. But yeah, so I don't buy that argument unless it is empirically proven, and that is where I think one has to do an adequate amount of ground level empirical research to prove that one nation, one policy or one thing to work. I mean, it all sounds very romantic and very nice and time saving and everything, but I think it has to be, it should be implemented like overnight. Because we are different. We are a country with different people, and it's like so. Has this been? I can go on and on, but I don't want to.
Thank you very much, Seema.
Yes, Indra.
Indra, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Great to hear you. This is a very generic question, and we call it that, and veering away from that mind interest is, I was wondering, listening to you, because it's a hard place to say it very enlightening. I think to know that enlightening, it was a very complex presentation, me at least, and I'm not from the sphere of sociology.
But you're from a higher school.
How do we define these things like culture, institution, or even the word design? I was thinking the other day, and when you talk about design as it is, if I'm using it as a noun, when you use design as a verb, it means so many more things.
Yeah.
When you're designing something, you have designs on something, that entirely opens up another area. And that same applies to, you made it very clear that how the institution, the word itself is problematic. The word culture itself also is very hard to define. So if you ever intend to define it, how do you do it?
I'll paint him and throwing my bullet back at me. Yeah, so we were, we were discussing, in fact, Sandhya was also, before we came here, we were talking about this very question. How do you define design? Is it a designer? Is it a designing process? Or is it a design on something? Right? So, before I attempt to answer your question, I remember an anecdote when I was traveling to the United States soon after the September 11 happened. You see, my name has a Khanwalkar. Okay? And I'm very proud of saying that my name is Khan. But, the computer always catches the Khan in the Khanwalkar. And every US immigration. And I am always pulled aside and I'm asked, what design do I have on the country of United States? Now, what are my designs? Which organization do I belong to? And when you said design, so the whole idea, so there is this whole plot that I'm supposed to have, and I'm supposed to have landed in that country with a design to bomb that country. Doesn't matter, I have a return ticket 4 days later. Yeah, so I'm supposed to go there, I'm supposed to finish off that country and come back after 4 days. So the word design is so closely associated with the culture. If I may now sort of attempt to answer your question, that because my name has Khan in it, though I had nothing to do with any religion for that matter, but I just happen to have been born a Khanwalkar, the culture and the attitude that because I probably belong to this culture, I will have desires on a certain nation which I will possibly. So it is baffling to see how culture gets, sort of fixed with an act. So you see, when you define culture, it is not something that is again in a box. It is an act. And it is an act that we attribute to a certain community in the world, like Edward Said talks about. So we are constantly expecting the community to, but we have lost sight of the word design in our life completely. At least I belong to a school of design. And I keep asking myself that question, are we green? What is product design? What is visual design? What is, I can understand art. And that's why I said you come from a very exalted sphere. Art, yes, but design is something that, and the culture of design, and now it is even more design management, design thinking, and it is a whole lot of, and I think I should ask Sunday to rescue me here because, she has been giving it a lot more thought. Yeah, you're right. I mean, culture is something that is just not defined and it is so loosely constructed that sociologists are to blame. So let's put the blame on them and let's get away by saying that they didn't do anything to explain culture to us. So, but it is something that we need to today think because we talk of global culture, we talk of modern culture, we talk of all these things so casually, and we don't even stop to think what we mean by them. The sense making is just not there. So I have no question for you when you ask me what is culture. I don't know.
Thank you, Seema and Abdul. Anyways, we've decided to ban that word design thinking. It has confused the whole generation of designers, non-designers, more than designers. But thanks for the wonderful lecture, and we would like to felicitate you. And may I request Sandhya, Pradeep, and Sandeep to please come and stand with Seema, and we want to present you some nice goodies. Please come on the stage.
That was too great. Just this.
Contributed to make this event a success. Navrachana University would like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of our faculty members and staff members who have been instrumental in building this institution. May I request our registrar, Dr. Sabine Person, to please take the stage and share some thoughts.
He has done a warm welcome. I would like to give a rainy welcome to everyone, and especially to Dr. Seema. I think your talk was really thought-provoking, and thank you very much for provoking a lot of thoughts amongst the young minds who are here. I'm especially thinking a lot about the culture and how to define it. So if defining the culture itself is so complex, and she delivered a talk of almost 50 minutes on it, it's really commendable. And during her speech, she said that the first word there in her surname, I'm going to US in October, and I'm thanking my father and my family and predecessor that I don't have that word. So thank you. Setting up the stage for felicitation of our colleagues. I would like to tell you something about the Foundation Day and the foundation. So foundation is nothing but a building block any organization, if it stays for many years, it is known by its foundation. So foundation generally is defined by two things. One is definitely infrastructure, bricks and mortar, which we say, but the other thing is by people of that particular organization. And when we define people, so of course, the leadership behind it, who vision something, who does the strategic planning, but then to the smallest unit which comes to execute it. And it's very important that the people behind execution of that particular organization's vision, they are very important. So recently I had gone to one of my friends' parents' wedding anniversary. It was the Golden Jubilee, and I was just seeing that everybody was celebrating an occasion. Of course, Foundation Day is also an occasion, but I am a firm believer that rather than celebrating an occasion, we must celebrate people behind it. So I was just jokingly telling uncle and auntie that I am not here to celebrate your occasion. I am here to celebrate both of you as an individual because you spend so much time together. The current generation is not actually doing it. So that's how I would like to define. And why it is important, to make your employees or your people in the organization is happy is so important. When I was a trainee and joined L&T Mumbai, most of the people in our category, whether it's the intern or the employees, they were not so happy. And I am known for my honest and blunt feedback. And one fine day, there was a meeting and boss called everyone, to address an issue. And then he asked for the feedback. So I said, but we should first look at that why these problems are coming up. And then he asked me that, what is your feedback? I said, most of the people are not happy. Then he told me that you are very junior. You don't know if we want to make people happy, you sell ice creams. Then only they will become happy. But over the period of years of experience, I have understood that, yeah, of course, we can definitely make people happy by selling ice creams, but not in organization. There are ways to make people happy, and that is one such occasion that you have to recognize the people who are working for you. Right. So Forbes magazine, I was reading an article on making people happy in your organization. It says that if you make your people happy, on an average, happier people, 12% are more productive. And hence, we firmly believe at Navrachana University, and again, it connects the dot here, Dr. Seema, that culture. So culture at Navrachana University is to make your employee recognized and reward at right time. Of course, during certain period of time, we have to tell them something, but at the right occasion, we feel that the university is because of its people, students, faculty, staff. I always say in administration that students come onto the campus, infrastructure much later, but they come for the faculty. And hence, in our administrative meeting, I say that administrative staff and faculties are two sides of the coin, and we must take care of each other. And I am proudly saying that all our faculty and staff members are cohesive in their mindset, and they are trying to work very hard for our students on this campus. So big round of applause for our employees and the colleagues, faculty and staff. They work very hard to solve areas of students' field and academic or administrative. So once Richard Branson says that you take care of your employee and then they will take care of your business. So similarly, I would like to end my talk here and congratulate all my colleagues who have completed 10 years here by saying that if we are moving forward together in a one direction, success will take care of itself. So I am sure that we are all moving in one direction together, and we will continue to do it. My hearty congratulations to all the colleagues who are going to be felicitated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sadek. Very aptly said, we are going to make our faculty members and staff members happy today by felicitating them. And for that very reason, may I now please invite Dr. Seema Khanwalkar. Please come forward and felicitate our faculty members.
For our institution with continued growth, pioneering innovation, and ever-increasing success. Thanks to the collective talent, dedication, and passion from our faculty to our bright students, from our committed staff to our supportive community, each of you have played a very crucial role in shaping our institution's future. As we leave this celebration, let us carry forward the spirit of innovation, the pursuit of excellence, and the commitment to growth that has defined our university for the past 15 years. Thank you all for being part of this momentous occasion. Have a great evening.